Welcome, everybody, to the Flying Pigskin. This is a Cincinnati Bengals podcast where experts and fans take you everywhere but the huddle. I'm your host. I'm a rookie at this. I'm John Popovich, but I have a couple of really veteran podcasters with me, one being Scott Kaiser, who's with us.
Hello, John.
Good to see you. Great game yesterday.
Always better after a victory Monday.
And on the phone with us, Keenan Singleton. He's my sidekick on Friday Football Frenzy, and he was in the sidelines. In fact, from what I could tell, he was in the end zone last night when A.J. Green made his game-winning catch. Keenan, how are you today?
Hey, I'm doing well. Just on baby duty right now. She's sleeping, so I'm glad to be able to talk a little football with you guys. And if you're a rookie, John, I don't even want to know what I am.
Well, I'm a rookie at this podcast thing, and I appreciate you guys doing this stuff because you do the one with Mike Dyer all the time, too. First, give us a sense. I'd like to hear about that before that closing drive where the Bengals won it. And just the feeling inside. A dome is usually very loud. It's hard to tell on television, but the announcers, you couldn't hear them very well. Give me a sense of just the atmosphere.
It was probably, and I say this without hyperbole, it's probably the best pro football game environment I've ever been in. You can't undersell just how loud, how intense, how into that game that fan base was. When the game, maybe about 15 minutes before the game started, we all were kind of looking around and marveling at all the empty seats. I mean, it's a beautiful new facility there. But then, as games kind of rolled around, I don't know if people were still at church or at brunch or whatever, but as that thing kind of filled up, you really felt everybody on top of you. You felt the energy of everybody there. It really felt like a rivalry game in a lot of different ways. And I don't know, maybe not from the Atlanta side, but from the Bengals side, they have so many Georgia-born players, guys that went to the University of Georgia on that team. There's a lot of intensity, a lot of kind of jawing back and forth between the Bengals and the fans on the sidelines, which you don't see a lot in pro football games. Some in college, but not really in the NFL.
And was it just me, or were there quite a lot of cheers when A.J. Green scored that touchdown? I was like, it's pretty loud in there for a road game for the Bengals.
Yeah, I tweeted this. That new stadium there, Mercedes-Benz Stadium, it's very similar to what they have going on in Dallas. Excuse me. And the fact that it's kind of a destination stadium. I mean, Atlanta is one of our great cities in this country, obviously, but then it's a brand-new stadium. It's huge. It's a spectacle to be there. So I think you're going to see some of the problems that the Cowboys have had, which is a lot of traveling fans, a lot of visiting fans are going to want to check out the facility. So you're going to have a lot of, visiting fans there, more so than you typically would, say, at a Paul Brown Stadium, where it's not, while there's nothing wrong with Paul Brown Stadium, it's not, a brand new spanking new facility like that. So you're going to have a lot of people, a lot of influx of folks. So you did see a lot of Bengals fans, and you did hear a lot of cheers, and you felt it, especially down on the sideline.
I thought the Georgia Dome was a fabulous place. I was there maybe only a couple of times, and I think what was it? Did it last about 20 years?
I mean, that's how they do in Atlanta. And Kaiser knows this as a Braves follower. They shelved. What is it? Where are they in SunTrust Park now? I guess out in Cobb County. So they don't really build stadiums like they used to. You could say that for a lot of things. We kind of build things for them to break, and Georgia Dome got imploded, and I don't think anyone's missing it though. That Mercedes-Benz Stadium is really special.
Back to the winning drive. Tyler Boyd, I'll tell you what, there's a guy that I guess I had some reservations about, but then last year he came up big at the end of the year, and he seems like he is just, I don't know, he's just not a bit player anymore. He's that kind of a Marvin Jones type guy who has stepped in and wants to be part of the action all the time.
I would say, obviously A.J. Green is Andy Dalton's go-to receiver. I kind of view Tyler Boyd as his to-go receiver. And when I say that, I mean that whatever yardage they have to go on third down especially, he's the guy that Andy Dalton is now looking for, especially now with Tyler Eifert being hurt. When they have those, kind of third and medium kind of plays, 3rd and 6, 3rd and 7, he's the guy that Andy Dalton is looking at because he can get open on those little jerk routes, those little whip routes. He can beat his man one-on-one in those slot, out of that slot position and get first downs, as you saw on that last drive. And Tyler Boyd's kind of maturation, it's kind of what you want to hopefully see with John Ross as this thing kind of goes along with him. Because Boyd, his rookie season, he had some ups and downs. he kind of started well. Then he had that fumble against the Steelers, and it seemed like the season kind of went to the toilet after that. Marvin Lewis, as he kind of tends to do with his rookie wide receivers, he lost trust in them. So then last year, I think we expected a little bit more out of him just because naturally you expect more at a year or two out of year one. And he was a healthy scratch for several games last year. And you talked to some people there, and he just wasn't into his books as much as he should have been. He wasn't taking the craft as seriously as he should have been. So now you see a guy that's a third-year pro. He's really gotten in. A.J. Green said in the locker room yesterday, we've seen him go from a boy to a man, and you really felt that, especially on that last drive. And he's now, I don't want to say a premier receiver, but he is a guy now that you legitimately, for Andy Dalton, he has two top-level receivers now on his team, A.J. Green being obviously number one, and then Tyler Boyd being a guy underneath that he can always go to.
Yeah, at the moment, it looks like the TJ to AJ's Chad. I mean, because you've got that second receiver now that is dependable, and it's no longer, all right, well, AJ, go get it, and we hope to God somebody else maybe shows up for a game. Boyd has shown over the last couple games that he's dependable.
There was something interesting, too. There was a third down that Andy almost got intercepted yesterday on that winning drive.
Right.
And that was targeted toward Boyd. Well, it was a bad throw from what I could see anyway. But as I noticed, as Tyler Boyd walked back to the huddle, Dalton kind of pulled him aside real quick and said something to him. They caught it on television anyway, that they were talking, and then the next one was a fourth down, and he went right back to Boyd again. So you kind of have to wonder, is I'm coming back to you or do something different? I don't know. I don't know if any of that was discussed, Keenan.
I've never got a sense of that. When you're down on that sideline, it's in a lot of ways it's the worst place to watch the game because it's so chaotic. There's so much going on. You don't have that bird's eye view that you have watching on TV or even in the stands if you're watching a game there. So it's literally, you got 80,000 people in the stands and you got all the players on the sideline, all the noise, all the things that are going on, trying to figure out where you need to be standing at. So I didn't see that play, unfortunately, but I wouldn't be surprised because you kind of see Andy Dalton becoming more and more vocal this year as well, and sometimes demonstratively. And if he's upset about something, he's kind of not scared. I don't know if scared is the right word, but he's always been Mr. Nice Guy in a lot of different ways. And you see him now kind of chewing some dudes out. John Ross a week ago, if they're making a mistake. So I don't think, necessarily maybe he and Tyler read the coverage differently on that particular play that you're mentioning now, but he obviously has the trust now in Tyler Boyd to be able to make those plays on crucial downs.
Speaking of a bird's eye view, it seemed like if A.J. Green hadn't caught that touchdown pass, you could have. I mean, I just saw from where your camera angle was. I mean, it came right at you, didn't it? I mean, I don't know if you thought, okay, they're going to come in this corner or whatever, but it was just coincidence or it was just luck. But it was a really good shot. I just want to let you know.
Thank you. It's probably the first good shot of my career, and I've been doing it for like 5 years now.
Take it, man.
But, just sometimes you just really luck out with that stuff. I think anybody would say that. Philip Lee, who works in our sports department, any number of, sports photographers, there's really no rhyme or reason to where things will happen like that. I just happen to be lucky. And then, when I kind of looked at the play before I put it on Twitter, I had no idea that I had that good of an angle on it. When I went back and looked, I was like, wow, you actually got this pretty well. Because typically on a lot of my shots, like I'll kind of be there, but I won't zoom out fast enough. And that's a lot of it. You have to kind of get the whole play in its scope as it's happening. And I just was extremely lucky to be in the right place, right time, and, the right play.
What was the locker room like? You've been in good locker rooms. You've been in very sad locker rooms. What kind of a tone would you give this one? Was it exuberant? Was it still fairly steady?
It was still, this is a team, although they've trended younger, they're one of the younger teams in NFL at last check. I don't know, now that roster's kind of been in flux a little bit where they kind of stand in that. But it's still very businesslike. It's a regular season one. Yeah, they moved to 3-1. Yeah, they're first place in the division. But outside of coming off the field, where A.J. Green was kind of screaming, "This is my city," and maybe a little more R-rated version of that as he was coming off the field, and guys kind of slapping each other on the back. Drake Kirkpatrick, who's from Alabama, neighboring states of Georgia, so he had a lot of people there. His fiance was there. It was very businesslike, and I didn't with the A.J. Green catch, the kind of most immediate news, I didn't really get into the Tyler Eifert injury that much. I did, again, excuse me, I didn't really get that much into that part of it, but it was a locker room that really was happy to see the offense kind of really keep taking that next step. Dre Kirkpatrick, Carlos Dunlap, both of those guys really pointing to the offense, kind of bailing the defense out that once again didn't have a great day, especially on third down. So it was a locker room that knows that they got some things to work on, and that was a kind of a big selling point. Hey, we got out of here with the win, but it's better to correct things coming off a win as opposed to coming off of a loss.
Well, I was going to ask that just before Papa went into it about the Eifert injury. So there was no sense there as far as any of the guys being a little bit down. I mean, obviously the win overshadowed that, but there wasn't a little bit of, but we did lose, Tyler.
I got some of that actually getting off the bus. I was walking back to my car, and I was talking to C.J. Uzomah, who's, a backup tight end to Tyler Eifert. And to a man, I think, especially CJ, you just felt how, these aren't gladiators. These aren't warriors all the time. Once the helmets are off, these are young men for the most part that are living out their dreams and their livelihood. And a lot of times these guys have built extremely close relationships, and they're truly friends. They're not just teammates. These are brothers in a lot of different ways. So you could feel the pain in C.J. Uzomah, like, He says he can't even, he won't be able to even watch that play of Tyler getting hurt. So I think you get a sense from him. I read something saying, from Gio Bernard talking about how much it hurt him. You saw on Twitter, even his former teammate, Andrew Whitworth, sending out his thoughts and prayers to Tyler Eifert, a guy that, you get to the point sometimes where in those locker rooms you hate asking the same guys the same questions about injuries. And I know I've been guilty of it, asking Tyler Eifert just, how are you feeling? What's your level? What do you think? Are you going to practice there? Are you going to play this week? And you hate asking these guys this, but you have to ask it because that's part of the job. And to see him work so hard to get back to this point and then to lose it all again, I mean, you kind of have to feel it as well, even though we're supposed to be impartial. As a human being, you feel, damn, that's really tough.
And I just had seen on Twitter, probably maybe a day or two before the game, how he had tweeted out that it's nice to talk about, the people are talking about his mullet instead of his injuries.
Yeah.
And that's it. Hey, were you surprised after A.J. Green caught the touchdown pass, all of a sudden to see Joe Mixon down there?
No, because Joe, I mean, for someone who was supposed to be out for, as Adam Schefter reported, 2 weeks to a month, it almost seems like he hasn't lost a step.
Not down the sidelines.
Not down the sidelines, especially, but at practice, you would see him. He's not fully participating, but he's doing about as much as he can for someone that's, dealing with the knee injury. I mean, you could tell he wants to be out there, and he's probably a lot closer than some people in the national media would lead you to believe. It's kind of interesting to see Joe Mixon emerge as a leader, a vocal leader of this team. I think the leaders of this team obviously are still Andy Dalton, A.J. Green, some of those guys. But to see him, the team is kind of following his personality, which is a lot of exuberance. It's excitement. I mean, because it's a young team now, as I mentioned before. So you feel that energy as opposed to before a couple of years ago. And I love Andrew Whitworth, but it was a different team when he was kind of around. But with Joe Mixon, he's the first guy congratulating guys after touchdowns. He's slapping people on the helmets. He's in the huddle. I remember on that, I feel like before the final play, he's standing right next to Andy Dalton. He's closer to Andy Dalton than Marvin Lewis was when that play happened. So he's really intimately involved at all levels. And it's kind of a surprise to see for a kid that came in with, some controversy attached to him. And didn't, he had a good year last year, but not a spectacular year. But he's really taking that next step as well.
I know you mentioned Dunlap and a couple of the defensive guys. Obviously, again, after the win, they're excited and everything. But what's the level of concern for the defense? Because they can't keep going into these games having to score 35-plus points and win. And I'm sure they know that. But is there any concern there by those guys in that locker room that they need to get things turned around?
I think there is some legitimate concern. I think they realize, as you mentioned, they can't rely. Maybe you can. The way this offense has performed, besides that Panthers game where they scored 21 points, I mean, they've scored 34 more points in 3 of the 4 games that they played this year. Mm-hmm. So I think just the way that the NFL is trending, I think we all know this, you really got got to be able to score to win games. It's more not stopping teams and more just outscoring teams. So I think the thing that the defense, more so than giving up the points and giving up the yards, is not creating turnovers. And that was a big point of emphasis for Terrell Austin, the new defensive coordinator, when he came in, was, we're not going to be able to stop people from going up and down the field. That's just not the way the NFL is now. But if we can force them into long drives, if we can force turnovers, then we'll be all right. We'll be able to win our share or better. So there's legitimate concern from the leaders of that defense. They know that they've got to get things tuned up, especially on third down. It was another poor third down game for them. I think, I'm sure you guys have talked about this or will talk about it, that they're last in the NFL in third down percentage completion. And that just kills you at a certain point, because those are extra plays that, your guys have to be there and plan another set of downs. So this defense has got to get corrected. It's not a Super Bowl level defense at this point, but honestly, neither was the Patriots last year, and they were, a touchdown away from winning it last year. So I think the offense is good enough to carry the defense for now, but I know the defense, they got a lot of proud guys on that side of the ball. They want to do their share.
One last thing, and are you sore today from running up and down that field? Because I was thinking, I hope he's in shape, because you're carrying a camera, and it just seemed like it was bang, bang, back and forth.
It was that first half. I think Joe Danneman over at Fox 19 mentioned it felt like a Big 12 game, because it was just up and down, up and down. Well, it was 28-24 at the half. And I had to have walked several miles yesterday. Chip Morton, who's the one of the trainers for the Bengals, the strength and conditioning coach, when we were on the plane, he was talking about how, you need to walk 30 minutes a day. And I was like, I'm probably not doing that enough, as I shouldn't. And I told him, I guarantee him, I was like, you know what, I'm going to start doing that. And I definitely did that Sunday. I mean, I got a good hour's worth of walking just up and down that field. But it was an incredible game. It wasn't one of those ones where you really felt it at the end of it. Not until I got home and actually got in bed. Then I was doggone exhausted. But it was one of those games with the energy of the crowd. If I was getting pumped up by it, I can only imagine what the players were experiencing. So, again, one of the best, if not the best, NFL game I've ever been to, experience-wise, one of the best, and an incredible win for the Bengals. And, they're 3-1, and we'll see where they go from here with the Dolphins coming into town.
Scott, anything more you want to ask him?
No, that's it, man. We apprite you joining us.
Yeah, go back to that beautiful daughter there.
Right,
and if she's taking a nap, you take a nap too, okay?
I just might do that. Hey, guys, have a great rest of the
Thanks
show.
for taking the time.
Yeah, man.
Yeah. Once again, it was another weekend that proved nothing about the NFL. The Dolphins, trying to go 4-0, they got slapped around by the Patriots. All of a sudden, the Patriots came back from the dead.
Although, to be fair, I don't know that there was anybody that really, outside of Miami, that really bought into that 3-0 Dolphins team. And that to me was one of those Denny Green, they are who we thought they were moments.
So we should feel good about the Dolphins coming in here Sunday?
That I don't know, because I at 3-0 I was confused at who they were, but I just knew that they weren't better than the Patriots, and that the Patriots were going to remind everybody whose division that still is. I mean, it didn't matter if the Patriots would have come in 0-3 yesterday. I would have expected the same result.
The only thing that always bothers me is I always think that is exacerbated by the fact that you played in Foxborough. I've seen a lot of good Bengals teams go up to Foxborough and just get knocked on their butts by, and then they'll come back and you say, they stink, but then they come back and they play pretty well. It is a really tough place to play.
Yeah, it'll humble you in a hurry, but I honestly have no idea what to expect. I haven't watched the Dolphins play either, so I mean, I've just seen box scores and things here and there. Their wins, they didn't seem like they were world-beating. It just seemed like they were doing enough to win those games. But it'll be an interesting. I have less of a take on it than I did for this Atlanta game, because, like I said last week, I knew this shootout was coming, and I was a little bit off in the prediction, but I knew that if they wanted to win, they were going to have to score more than 35, and if they can do that against the Dolphins, then they should win easily, because I don't think the Dolphins are necessarily capable of keeping up with the team in a shootout.
Well, of course, yeah. In one sense, you're dealing with Matt Ryan and all the great receivers he has, and now you're looking at Ryan Tannehill, who can be something, and then he could be nothing.
Exactly. So I mean, I would think that the Bengals should feel pretty good about, fans should definitely feel pretty good about this game, and I'd feel good about it even if they had come off the loss, which we thought, all right, they'll be 2-2, and then they've got a real solid chance at this win. But I'd feel even better after this win in Atlanta and coming against Miami.
Were you watching the game when Eifert went down?
That was one of the only parts that I missed, and I did see the replay, and I was kind of glad that I missed it. I do not like watching that stuff.
I was listening because I'd gone in. We were getting dinner ready, to be honest with you, and I heard Lapp say it, and it was like instantly he saw it. He goes, oh my, and he knew it wasn't just somebody that twisted his ankle or something like that.
Right.
I guess it was just instantly you knew it was bad.
Yeah, and Keenan kind of touched on it. It sucks because we talked about this at before the season started and how things needed to go and if the Bengals were going to do well, and one of the talking points is Tyler Eifert and his injury history. And it seems to crop up no matter what he does. And you feel bad for the guy because he's a Pro Bowl tight end when healthy. And watching it yesterday, he's out there running around. He's pulling guys from the defense. You see what it means to have him out there for the offense because he's got to be accounted for. And that touchdown he scored wide open right over the middle, it's like, man, having that element taken away from this offense just really hurts. So it's tough because then they still played well without him, but it's not something that in the long term you wish for. I mean, not saying, oh well, we can do without Tyler Eifert. So I think it hurts the offense long term, but you just hope that next man up. Yeah,
and these guys have been next man up enough. Tyler Kroft, C.J. Uzama, and there's a third guy. I think Mason Schreck is the guy that they believe is going to be a really good tight end. These guys have been in this position before, so in the past they were yanked out there as rookies or second-year guys. Now this is at least the third time around having to deal with, and also you have a big presence because we talked about Tyler Boyd. He's not just a wide receiver; he's a pretty good physical presence out there too.
Yeah, and it's great that he's stepped up when, Ross is still learning his way. He had the touchdown yesterday, and he, maybe righted himself from last week when we were kind of down on him and, quitting on the route or whatever. But it's nice that Boyd, again, has stepped up at this time with Eifert going down because before it was going to be, well, if Eifert goes down and then it's back to just having AJ, at least now you feel a little bit more comfortable. And with the tight end thing, it's going to kind of be like with the Mixon injury. You're not necessarily looking for them to completely, take over for what Eifert brings. I mean, he's a special talent. You can't just replace that. But it's, kind of a committee thing, and these guys will rotate in and out of there, and you hope you get enough production from the three of them to kind of mask the fact that Eifert's not there.
I think some closing thoughts here. It was nice that Gio played well. Now hopefully you get Mixon back. Maybe another week.
I wanted to bring that up because I thought he played exceptionally well, and I'm watching him run, and I'm sitting there thinking, not necessarily that you have a running back controversy because obviously Mixon is going to slot back in the starter, but I think they need to make sure that they keep Bernard involved. I think
enough touches.
Yes, I think they got away from him and wanting to, you drafted Mixon to be that guy and the 3-down back, but I think kind of lost in the shuffle there. And when they had Hill, it's like Gio got pushed back even further. And now I think when Gio got thrust into the starting role, he looked great. And I'm like, you know what? When Mixon comes back, I don't think that you push Gio back and start losing. He needs to stay in there and keep getting touches because there was a couple times he touched the ball and was off. And I'm like, not that Mixon can't do that, but it's just a special element that, you need to make sure they keep in there and not forget about just because Mixon comes back.
No, I agree. And it'll be interesting if Mixon comes back. We haven't heard much about Billy Price Jr., the center, and whether he's ready to come back or not. We know Vontaze Burfict is coming back this week.
That's a huge get coming
back.
And
we wonder what kind of shape he's in, how many downs he'll be able to, and hopefully he keeps his head on straight. And especially in this time of protecting quarterbacks, he's going to have to be more careful than ever before.
Yeah, and that does help out this defense that struggled, for the past couple weeks. So we'll see how that goes. But huge get to have him on the heels of losing Eifert.
Okay, and the final thing is the Steelers lost again. So I guess we have to wonder, are the Ravens for real and the Steelers just kind of ordinary? Steelers are here in 2 weeks.
Well, the Ravens seem to be more real than I thought they were because they've looked really well in the games outside of Cincinnati and beating the Steelers. I didn't see that coming last night. I thought for sure that the Steelers would right the ship, but they seem lost without Bell, and so it's hurting a lot more than I thought it would. But I don't know that I'm ready to say that there's a pass the baton moment. I want to see a little bit more out of the Ravens before I say they're more real than the Steelers. I mean, even at 1-3, it's kind of like with the Patriots, where it's like I'm not going to doubt them until I see a little bit more. I mean, a 4-game sample size isn't enough for me to crown the Ravens over the Steelers as far as which one's better at this point.
Well, before we say goodbye, I want to just say we really miss the presence of Tanya O'Rourke here. She's usually
Tanya,
our
come back
anchor.
From Napa.
Yeah, she's out having a good time, and we're glad she does because she works really hard at everything she does. So she'll be back next week, and we look forward to that. The Bengals.
Do we want to give our predictions for?
Oh yeah, let's do that.
So the Dolphins?
It's the Dolphins 3-1 at the Bengals 3-1. And go ahead. I haven't formalized mine yet.
I don't have a score for this one, but I think that the Bengals are playing so well right now. And, you know, again, I haven't watched a lot of the Dolphins, but they seem just very ordinary. I think that the Bengals got this one. Coming back home off of the solid win, I'm going to go Bengals easily in this one. I say they keep the trend up of scoring 30-plus points, and I think they figure out enough on defense to where they probably win, 31-21.
Okay, we're not too far off. I wrote down 38-24 here.
There we go.
So I don't, we'll see.
And we know Tanya would choose the Bengals if she was here. That's for sure. So we're going to go 3 for 3 on that one.
That's good. Well, she'll be back next week, and we missed her. But thank you to Keenan. Thank you, Scott, for being with here. That wraps up this episode of the Flying Pigskin. You can join us each week by subscribing to the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, or Google Play. Hoo day, everybody.
See you next week.